So, when you picture an empire, what comes to mind? Probably vast armies, right? Marching across endless miles of land. Some empires rule by the sword, others by faith. But what if an empire's power wasn't just about territory, but something more? We're about to get into the story of a dynasty that did exactly that.
And yeah, that quote, it absolutely nails it. This is the perfect way to talk about the Cholas, one of the greatest dynasties South India has ever produced. Rising up from the fertile banks of the Kaveri River, their story is just a masterclass in building a civilization that was as powerful on the ocean waves as it was on solid ground.
Okay, so where did this all begin? Well, the Cholas were actually mentioned in ancient texts for centuries, but their journey from just a regional power to a full-blown empire, that really kicks off in the 9th century CE. And this wasn't some, overnight explosion of power. It was a deliberate, structured rise.
Now, that last point there, with Vijayalaya Chola, that's the real game changer. By capturing the city of Tanjavur, he didn't just win another battle, he laid the cornerstone for everything that was about to happen. This was the one strategic move that set the entire stage for an empire.
See, the Cholas didn't rule through chaos and brute force. Nope, they built their power on a foundation of order. Just think about it, a strong central government that also somehow allowed for local communities to govern themselves, all funded by a super well-organized tax system. That stability, that was the secret sauce to their growth. All right. Every great empire has its legendary rulers, right? Those larger-than-life figures. And for the Cholas, two names stand way above all the others. These are the guys who took that strong foundation and built a true golden age on top of it. Let's start with the father, the great empire builder himself.
Rajaraja I was a flat-out military genius. He consolidated power, he expanded Chola territory across pretty much all of South India, and even pushed their influence into Sri Lanka. He was, by any measure you can think of, a formidable conqueror who made the Chola name both feared and respected.
But here's the twist. For all his military victories, his most enduring legacy, it was something else entirely. His vision went so far beyond the battlefield. He really understood that true power is also about what you create, what you build.
And this was his masterpiece, the Brihadeeswarar Temple. It wasn't just a place to pray, it was the beating heart of the empire. I mean, this thing rose like a mountain of stone. It was a center for the economy, for art, for learning. It was a statement of power, piety, and just unbelievable engineering skill, all rolled into one.
So how did his son build on that? Well, if Rajaraja was the master of the land, his son, Rajendra Chola I, was about to become the master of the sea. They had these distinct yet perfectly complementary legacies. The father built the foundation, and the son, well, he took it global. Just stop and think for a second about how audacious this was. Rajendra built India's first truly great naval empire. His ships didn't just, hug the coast. They crossed the open ocean, projecting Chola power and culture all the way to Southeast Asia. They basically turned the Bay of Bengal into a Chola lake, a highway for trade and influence. So you've got this combination of stable governance, amazing cultural patronage, and a navy that nobody could touch. What does that get you? It gets you a golden age. This was a time when South Indian civilization reached an absolute peak of prosperity and artistic expression.
And just look at what defined this era. The bronze sculptures from this period, they're considered some of the finest in human history. Tamil literature was flourishing. And get this, women actually enjoyed property rights, which was incredible for the time. Their trade networks were enormous, connecting them all the way from Arabia to China. This was a seriously sophisticated, thriving society.
But you know how these stories go. No empire lasts forever. The decline of the Cholas wasn't some sudden, dramatic collapse, though. It was something much more gradual, a long, slow fade from the absolute peak of their power.
So what happened? It was really a combination of things. The strain of just managing such a huge empire started to take its toll. Internal conflicts began to weaken them from the inside. And at the exact same time, powerful rivals like the Pandyas and Hoysalas started to rise, chipping away at Chola dominance.
By the 13th century, their time as a major political force was pretty much over. But here's the important part to understand. They faded. They didn't shatter. And because their decline was so gradual, their immense cultural influence had time to really embed itself deep into the fabric of South India. And that brings us to their incredible legacy.
The political empire might be long gone, but the Cholas are, in so many ways, still with us today, preserved in the magnificent things they left behind for us to see.
So, let's just ask that question directly. Once the dust of battle settled and the last king was gone, what was left? What's the true measure of their empire?
Well, for one, it's literally etched in stone. The great temples they built are still standing. They're architectural marvels that tell the story of their devotion and their power. And thousands of inscriptions carved into those walls give us a direct window into their world, their laws, and their everyday lives.
And then, of course, their artistry lives on in bronze. I mean, these beautiful idols are not just religious objects, they are absolute masterpieces of art and metallurgy, capturing a moment of divine grace and creative perfection that continues to inspire awe centuries later.
And that really is the ultimate lesson from the Chola story. They remind us that an empire's greatness isn't only measured by the land it can conquer. It's measured by the art, the culture, and the ideas it leaves for the world. Their political power faded, but their civilization, that endures.